Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. Now, there's no denying that there is a divide between the wealthy and not so wealthy, not only in North America, but around the world. But I wish to examine the argument that is often brought up. Oh, you can just go to McDonald's, Amazon, whatever. They're always hiring. Get a job there. Let's break it down into numbers. You know what? I'm not going to argue that Amazon, McDonald's, whatever it may be, may always be hiring. But there's a reason for that. They always want to be hiring so that they have lots of workers to call when things go wrong. And most importantly, so that way they can avoid giving full-time hours. Once you put a full-time employee in, with all fairness to the employer, it gets more expensive. There's more taxes, there's more insurance, there's more benefits to pay out. So you ideally want to give an employee like 39.5 hours per week and then cut them off. Believe me, we used to get an overtime report at one company that I had that showed exactly how many hours the employees had left to work. And this was actually at a place where 60 hours a week was legal. And we had to do tricks. We could do this, but we couldn't do this. And that was the only way to work it into our management styles. Let's just put it that way. So, yeah, you can always get a job, but you're never going to get a full-time job. So where are you going to get your second job? Oh, going to go across to Burger King or Wendy's or Arby's or whatever you have in your area? Then, and I've never had to do this, so I can't comment on it, but somehow you have to compromise between your two schedulers, bosses, whatever you want to call them, to make sure that you don't have to show up to two shifts at the same time. Because it's realistically not going to work for you to be trading shifts each and every time. And yeah, that's a heck of a thing because there's a lot of employers that don't like the fact you might be working for another company. Another thing to consider is the actual cost of living. Now, the average one-bedroom apartment where I live is $1,500 per month. When you break it down, that pretty much works out to 100 hours. 100 hours in total per week. That's almost 15 hours per day that you'll be working. That's a hell of a long time to be at any work, much less having to coordinate two workplaces. And you're basically saying you're never going to sleep so that you can have a one bedroom. I sure hope you don't have plans to eat. I sure hope you don't have plans to have a family, because that's the only way it's going to work. Now, admittedly, if you have a spouse or something, the math for this changes, but I'm kind of gearing this more towards the younger single crowd, because they're the ones that get picked on the most. Oh, why don't you just work your way to wealth? Well, it's sometimes a lot harder than you think. And remember, these employers are literally incentivized not to give you full time. So, again, I hope you don't get sick. We've created this weird culture where you're expected to work and not just put in a 9 to 5 day at a reasonable job, but you're going to be killing yourself for 15 hours just simply for the raw basics. Again, I didn't include food in that budget. And you're already working almost 50 hours a week. And I often take tips and I'll give tips about, don't buy ramen noodles, buy the actual, well, the non-pre-packaged ramen noodles. You can buy a big thing of them. It's not hard to throw a couple spices and boil them. It honestly isn't. And it'll be substantially cheaper. I would technically be considered, well, it depends on the figure that you look at, but I can be considered below the poverty line and I can be considered middle class. And that's simply because of the way things worked out for me. Now, I'm not complaining on my behalf, but I'm complaining you're somewhere between 19 years old and 24 years old. Let's pretend you graduated high school, because I think that's pretty much a common denominator at this point. And even if not, at some point you're going to go later, get your GED or equivalent, and you're going to get the piece of paper that says, yes, this person knows the raw basics. And that's no offense to anybody who has a high school or a GED, but realistically, high school is considered the basics. Now, the funny thing about that, I have I have degrees, I have diplomas. No one's ever asked to see them. As a matter of fact, my first aid training and safety training, when you switch companies, if it's not with, St. John's Ambulance or something, it doesn't cross. They have to pull a whole new certification because, hazardous goods changes every 6 months. You need to be constantly updated on what's going on there. Not sure why they do it with first aid. First aid, the techniques pretty much have remained the same for about 30 years. I only say that because I was once a lifeguard, and I took my first aid pretty recently. The thing I found surprising was they got rid of back blows back in the day, and now they're bringing it back. Okay, useful information to know. Fortunately, I'm trained in them because I'm so old school that I remember the old way of doing things, so I knew the new way. But that's all stuff you're doing outside of your earning hours. Although, to be honest, they usually do like WHMIS, hazardous goods, safety and stuff. Usually they will do that during training hours because, or at least paid hours of some sort. Because it's a couple hours long, you have to take a test, and that would be a labor violation if they tried not to pay you. And listen to that if you're out there and somebody's trying to get you to take that test. So, you got your high school diploma, or possibly more, and you need to get out there because any field that you're choosing, unless it's like, I don't know, I'm trying to think something really super in demand at the moment, but you still need to feed and clothe yourself until you get there. And that's why people are choosing to stay home. I have 2 daughters at home. And I'm not going to kick them out anytime soon. Because while I could take the perspective, oh, McDonald's is hiring, Amazon is hiring, get out there, that's not the type of life that I want for them. At some point, well, my eldest will be going through college and university soon, and my youngest is, she's going to be going through middle school very soon. So kicking either one out would literally be a crime. But imagine this mentality where, oh, you can get a job anywhere. One guy I know really insists, well, Amazon drivers are hiring, was it $18, $20 an hour, and it's easy work. Heck no, it is not. Let's not even look at porch pirates. Let's look at the job itself. You get a route, you get a run, and you have to follow that pretty much more or less. How do I know? I used to be the guy that set up runs, not for Amazon, but for another company. Now, there's a cute trick that most people don't know. People can only make a certain number of stops per hour, and yeah, setting that up is one of the hardest things to juggle because it just takes one person to not be there, to not answer, to have their house not clearly labeled. And all of a sudden, that driver is stopping and wasting their time trying to figure out where 131 Baker Street is. It's hard. I get it. I particularly don't like driving. And I've driven across the country. I've driven north, south, I've driven all over the place. And I don't particularly like it. I used to, but the modern day and age, it's not because of bad drivers, not because of anything like that, but just the sheer amount of traffic is ridiculous. And you're going to be driving, and there's going to be some pea-brain dispatcher. How long until you get there? Well, can't you get there any sooner? No, they can't get there any sooner. Because I was a dispatcher, and I know we get customers calling all the time. How long is it going to take them to get there? And that's when I turned into the most meek, friendly, apologetic. How long is it going to take you to get there? I'll be there in 10 minutes. I always, added an extra 10, 15 minutes on to that. And I told the customer, yeah, about 25 minutes. Because I knew the customer would be calling in 5 minutes. Where's the driver? Where's the driver? People don't understand this stuff. McDonald's. There's the old joke about, French fry cook being some sort of a derogatory position. But you know what? If you're a younger person and you need to make some money, it's not so bad frying some French fries. And even if you're an older person on pension and you need some sort of a place to make your money, McDonald's, once again, is not the worst place in the world. Remember the Walmart greeters? Great place for a retired person until people started getting smart and realizing they could swarm them. So now they have to have security. So that job just simply does not exist, or it doesn't exist in the places around here. So the more jobs that are heading this way, where you have to have 30 years experience in C+, know how to program every single possible thing in Excel, and also be under 25, those jobs just don't exist. And more jobs are being eliminated because they're being automated. So the sheer arrogance, the impudence, the lack of sympathy for your fellow human being to say, oh, you can get a job anywhere, is disturbing. Now, with all that said, there are certain people who do abuse the system. This cannot be denied. And for that, okay, yeah, tell them they can get a job anywhere, because at least if you're out and you're applying or something, your chances go from 0 to 100 very, very quickly. I am not doing a particular field of work at present, just simply because circumstances are not what they were. And I have one of my former employers that every 6 months begs me to come work for him. So yeah, I got a reputation. I got people willing to hire me. I just don't want to work for this particular gentleman because he does not know how to respect personal boundaries. And literally he sits at home watching the cameras at work and, oh, where has Silverlight gone? Well, I went to the bathroom. Well, how long until he gets back? Literal conversation, because I've had it with him. I understand people are going to have a smoke. They're going to go to the washroom. They're going to fill up their water bottle. As long as it's not excessive, I do not care. Back in the late 2000s, my company put through a rule, and I have no problem with this rule, that you could only smoke. That's like vaping with a cigarette. But you could only smoke on your breaks. So your lunch break and your coffee break. And you know what? I respected the company for doing that. But because I was in a unique situation and the supervisors were almost never around, supervisors, I was a North American manager. But the people above me, the managers and stuff, were never around. I could tell my employees, look, I realize that you're smokers and I'm not. So here's the deal. You can go for a cigarette whenever you want, but don't abuse the privilege. And if you see any of the managers coming around, you throw that thing away and you get your butt back in here, because it's an unofficial deal between us. Because I understand you're there, you're taking phone calls, you're working on the computer, stuff like that. You need a cigarette. That was me as a boss. Understanding, but fair. Like I said, you're out there every 10 seconds, I'm going to say something. One guy used to smoke like half a cigarette and then put it behind his ear and come in like, no, just go out and have the rest of your cigarette. Oh, but I don't want it. I don't want to smell it. Not a bad fellow, but he was trying to be considerate, and yeah, I recognize his intentions. You see, that's all because reputation and experience. But if I were starting off today, I would probably be working for a kiosk in the mall, one of the big grocery stores. I don't know. And the more jobs that get eliminated, like these self checkout registers, they're killing jobs and they're not going away ever. That's simply the way things work. So these jobs are being eliminated, and this old fogey group that's saying, oh, you can get a job anywhere, McDonald's is hiring. No. No, but McDonald's jobs are actually going to become somewhat coveted because they do offer a reasonable rate. It's minimum wage, but it's still better than like servers used to get below minimum wage, and now that's gone away. But yeah, we can't set our modern morals to things the way things were 20 years ago. We have to move with the times, because if we don't, we're the ones that are going to wind up homeless, living in a house with 4 or 5 families that are spread out between it. And that's just because that's the only way you can pay bills. Does that sound like the way things were? No, it does not. But that's the way things are moving. And I hate to say it, but we need to figure this out, and fast. With that being said, we wish to thank you for joining us for the Silverlight Show. If you enjoyed this show, please like, subscribe, and press the button for notifications. And we hope you have a fantastic day.